Welcome in for another video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to start sewing on your different pieces of your project using something called the running stitch. It's a very simple stitch. It's just a straight up and down, and it's what we're going to use to attach all of our pieces to our project. You will need the bag fabric, any letters that you might have, and any background fabric you might have. If you are doing Doritos and Oreos, okay, you will have the bag fabric, a background fabric, and the letter. And if you're doing Takis, you're just going to have the bag fabric and the letter fabric. So you're only going to be sewing through 2 layers with Takis, but 3 for Oreos and Doritos, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. So in front of me, I have my bag fabric, my background blue, and my letters of my Oreo all cut out and ready to go. I also have the color floss for my letters themselves. Okay, if you're doing Takis, you're going to be using yellow, and Doritos, you're also going to be using white. I have my needle, and I have my needle threader. Okay, this is going to make things a lot easier. I'm going to start with my embroidery floss. And what we're going to do first is we are going to tie a knot in our string. So the first thing you are going to do is you're going to untangle your string. You are going to take one end of that embroidery string, and you're going to pinch it between your pointer finger and your thumb. Okay, we're going to wrap that string back around your pointer, and you are going to pinch it with your thumb so that it creates a loop around your finger. Okay. You are then going to squeeze your fingers together. You're going to scoot your thumb forward and your pointer finger backwards. It's going to start to twist your strings together. So it creates kind of like a jumbled little mess. Looks like that. After it's been twisted around a few times, you're going to swap out your pointer finger with your middle finger. You're going to just hold that all together. Okay, so again, I switch from my pointer finger to my middle finger between my thumb. I have my string. I'm going to take this long tail and I'm going to gently pull it, and it's going to create a jumbled up knot. Okay, yours might look a little bit different, but that's what it's going to give you. Okay, I'm going to go to the opposite end of my string, the one without the knot. Oops, the string has a knot in it. Hold on. There we go. So again, I'm going to go to the opposite end of my string without a knot in it, and I'm going to be working with this end next. I'm going to be threading that string through my needle. So I'm going to pick up my needle and my needle threader. I'm going to take the wire end of the threader, and I'm going to feed it through the eye of the needle. This will just make it a little bit easier. You're going to hold those two things together. You're going to take the unknotted end of your string. You're going to push that through the needle threader. You're going to pull it. So you have, I have 4 inches. And then you're going to pull that needle threader back through. It's going to take the string with it. As soon as that tail comes out, you're going to hold on to it, and you're just going to pull the string out from the threader, and now you have your needle threaded. Okay, you don't want to what we call double up the string, which is when you pull your string so that your lengths are even. Okay, we're not going to do this. Instead, we want to have a shorter tail. Okay. Let it be about 6 inches. This will just help it from pulling through your needle while you're sewing. So once you have your thread knotted at one end, okay, and it's threaded through your needle, you are ready to start sewing. So you're going to take your pieces. You're going to lay them onto just one piece of that bag fabric. Okay, you want to save that second piece for later on. So with the Oreo, I am currently going to sew through 1, 2, 3 layers. As you sew, I want you to think of a duck on water. Okay, a duck on top of the water is nice and calm. A duck underwater is a little frantic with his little feet moving. That's going to be the same idea for your project. Okay, so the top of it, your stitching is going to look really nice. And then on the back, it's going to look a little bit crazy, just like the duck's feet. That's fine because this will all be inside of your project. So we won't be able to see this when we're done with it. I am going to start with my first O in Oreo. I am going to take my needle in my dominant hand and I am going to push it up from behind my project. And I'm just going to stitch in a single line around the O. So I'm going to push my needle up. I'm going to pull it all the way until that knot hits the back and you'll feel a slight tug. It doesn't matter which direction you go because you can just jump from one letter to the next when you're on the back of your project. So now that I am coming up from the back, I need to go down to the back. So I'm going to push my needle down through, pull my needle out. It's helpful to pinch onto the eye of the needle where your thread's coming out before you finish pulling your thread through, because it will help to keep that thread on your needle for a long amount of time. I'm going to come back up, pull until I feel a slight tug, and I'm just going to do this all the way around my letter. Sometimes you have to really push the needle through. There we go. Pull it out and pull it through. That's all it is just up and down. Try and keep your stitches the same length, okay, and the same width apart. That will help it look more uniform. If you're having a little bit of trouble with that, that's okay. Just give it your best shot, especially if this is your first time sewing. But again, it's just a nice up and down motion with your needle. Okay, and you're going to go all the way around. I recommend starting with the letters of your project because they do take up the most space. So if you take up the most space first with your largest items, you'll be able to make sure that you have room for the smaller things. They'll be easier to place. Again, up and down, all the way around. Again, sometimes you really have to push it through. Felt can be a little bit thick in areas. If you have kind of a funny amount of space left like I do, just do another stitch. You can just make it kind of small. Okay. So now that I am done with the first O on my Oreo, I'm going to put my R down. And from the back of my project, I'm just going to jump over to that R. Okay, so for this step, you want to make sure that your thread is coming out the back of your fabric. Okay, the back of the fabric, the duck's feet. And you are just going to hold your letter in place. And you are going to jump from your O to your R, again on the back of your fabric. This part is going to look a little crazy on the back of your project, but again, don't worry, we won't see that in the end. Okay, it looks something like this. You'll have these longer lines. This is just, again, jumping from the O to the R. Okay. So you're going to go through, you are going to sew all of your letters on, and in the next video I'll show you how to tie off and knot your thread.